Welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast. My name is Anthony Oliver, and today's discussion will focus on the power of public infrastructure, examining how investment in new and renewed assets can radically change lives and create huge additional social value to improve communities. Now, the phrase levelling up has become something of a catch-all when it comes to UK public infrastructure investment. It's a way to spread the nation's wealth beyond London and the South East, a way to redistribute opportunity towards long-forgotten communities, or perhaps a means to access the skills and hidden talent currently overlooked across the nation. So essentially, it's all about creating focus on the social outcomes. It's about thinking beyond the usual obsession around economic benefit to actually judge the value of interventions on the way they impact real people's lives. And here we're talking about benefits such as better health and learning outcomes, greater access to housing and transport, reducing carbon emissions, and maybe even increasing community cohesion. Achieving this so-called social dividend is now increasingly critical. For any organisation or business hoping to succeed in the public infrastructure arena, social outcomes must be both top of mind and, perhaps more importantly, a genuine ambition. So, to help us understand a bit more about this vital issue and the power of public infrastructure, it's my pleasure to welcome Michelle de Franca, Managing Director in UK and Ireland at Bechtel Infrastructure. Michelle, welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, Michelle, the concept of levelling up, social dividend, delivering greater social value from infrastructure investment has grown over the last few years, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, as I explained. What does it mean to you?
It's about economic, environmental, and social well-being for all. It really is about leaving things better, performing in a way that is positive and supports the community where you're working, really just delivering for people, no matter where they live. In the UK, levelling up is often seen as a north-south divide, particularly because historically there's been less investment in infrastructure for the north. But it's really about the divide also between urban and rural areas. So it's not just a north-south challenge. So, from our perspective, it's about everything we could possibly do to achieve benefit for people that are impacted, affected, or recipients of infrastructure.
Okay, so there's a lot going on there. And I suppose the next question I've got in mind is why has the creation of social value alongside economic value risen up the public agenda so rapidly recently?
Well, I think it's because the economic terms are often just quite finite, but in real terms, what matters is how people experience those impacts and how you're best placed to actually make that social change, which is far more long lasting and actually is a real investment in people as opposed to necessarily a commercial outcome. Sometimes that's hard to measure. In fact, it's probably the exact kind of work you want to do, the things in terms of social value where you can't measure the benefit that you bring to the community. They just recognize that they're gaining more skills or more opportunities simply by being within proximity of some of these major infrastructure programs.
I mean, presumably it's not that we have not been doing it in the past. It's just that it's something we're now measuring more. Is that right then?
I think some firms have been really active in the space, whereas, now that it's effectively part of the regulation, part of public procurement requirements, in order to it's our license to operate. So in order for us to bid and win work, we as responsible parties within the market and the sector really have to demonstrate how what we do, how we execute, and what we're actually building will ultimately benefit the communities where they're executed. So we want to achieve these outcomes. Our customers want it, our communities want it, and it gives us a sense of purpose.
Yeah. So are there particular roles that the public sector clients or the private sector delivery organisations have in driving forward that desired social outcome? How do you define those roles?
So I would start to say that both when government and business come together and we're aligned on the fact that this actually really matters, that's when we'll see real change, because we're all focused on the same outcomes and the same benefits. So I have to say that the government having, stepped forward to really influence market behavior, both through the Social Value Act as well as the Procurement Policy Note 6 of 20. Those are things that are driving behaviors of the whole market. And we're all stepping up and we're all trying to do even better than that. And I think we're seeing from a business perspective, our talent, our people want to be involved in things that matter. It's important to our customers. It's important to our communities. So I think it's the convergence of those two forces, I think, will be really impactful. I don't think one is more important than the other, of course.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the community, you talk about the private sector, you talk about the government, and that brings to mind a phrase that I've heard at Bechtel, which is around this one team approach, where you're trying to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always thought you're trying to engage all parts of the supply chain, the local community, the client, the design and delivery process to actually raise the level of what that outcome that's delivered. Is that the way you describe the one team approach? And if so, how does it give that greater social value outcome?
I agree. That's probably a good summation of it. But in short, really what drives action is understanding the challenge. So once you can articulate the problem statement, you start to determine activities and actions that will lead you to solving that problem statement. And for us, the one team approach is vital in order to meet the following problem statement. That is, our infrastructure customers, often publicly funded, need to get more value. So effectively, they need more for less. Budgets are tight. They want to see real benefit and they want to see real confidence in the way we execute and the outcomes for the communities and for the taxpayer. So when you see that as being the challenge, being, this one team approach is exactly what we need to work with our customers, the supply chain, in order to really focus all of our attentions and to try and draw the best solutions from all those parties. So we really do achieve the outcomes that resolve the problem statement.
So you're all trying to make a profit. You're all trying to deliver the best you can for the limited amount of public expenditures available, but you're all driving in the same direction, essentially.
Yeah, I think that when you can eliminate the friction of different objectives, then you really do see this effective execution, effective approach. You see real success in projects. And, never more have we faced such significant challenges as we do now with the energy security challenges that we're facing. And, if we're really committed to establishing a cleaner, greener world, we all need to be focused on things like this and really kind of see ourselves as active participants in resolving these challenges. So
that means driving down carbon as well as driving down costs. It means improving air quality. Yeah. You're also at Bechtel, you're a full service EPC contractor. You do the end to end stuff. How does that make delivery of social value easier?
So I think one of our benefits is to have that insight into what it takes to deliver each aspect of the value chain. So whether that's planning, design, construction, management of all those activities, experience that we've been able to draw upon in our 125-year history has allowed us to really leverage the best lessons. And I think we're able then to really see the opportunities at each point on the value chain. But more than that, I think having that keen understanding enables a better sense of communication across that supply chain. And then it's about articulating the benefit that cumulatively each of these participants could bring to any project. And I think people want to work together on these things. It's the easy way to align a team because we all agree it's a good idea and it's the right thing to do.
Well, one of the key aspects of this social value, driving social value, is creating local employment. What would you say are the greatest hurdles for the infrastructure sector when it comes to achieving that greater local recruitment? Because a lot of the businesses they're nationally based. They drive out of a central hub, so to speak. How do you get into the local communities to drive that local recruitment?
So one issue is that where there isn't clarity on a pipeline of work, it is difficult for firms like my own and others in the supply chain to plan where we need to build teams and actually hire locally. So when there's further clarity on which projects will be launched at which time, we will be able to respond more effectively to that. It is difficult. I think we can do more in skills building. I think people are dissuaded by thinking that construction is quite a closed environment, particularly diverse candidates. It's not. It's actually one of the industries where you can absolutely learn on the job, and there's great opportunities to enter through returner schemes, apprenticeships. We could go on. It just really is an opportunity for people to get engaged. Now, there's a number of programs that we've been able to launch in certain projects and in regions, but it is about connecting to the community and being active. So I think, reaching out to local colleges, universities, if that's applicable, engaging with community groups, thinking about in your planning phase how you would like to bring that local workforce into play is key, and then really actioning that. And I think we're all getting better at it. As an industry, but absolutely we can always do more, and I think it's to the benefit of the project.
But I suppose it's being seen by the community as part of a solution and not a problem that's being brought to that area.
Yes, I mean, in some cases that's exactly the case. Oftentimes construction can cause a bit of disruption, but we need to recognize that we can actively counter that by making people part of the whole program. It's in their backyard, it affects them, but if they're part of it, they understand why and how. And I think there's also a sense of ownership and a sense of kind of community that's enhanced by the fact that we're all doing this to achieve a certain aim, and we're invested as much as they are.
So we've talked about getting better outcomes. We've talked about building skills in local communities. I suppose one of the third perhaps element is driving towards lower carbon, towards net zero. That I imagine for you is also part of this social value objective. I mean, is that truly achievable, given that infrastructure quite often is one of the major contributors to emissions?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. I would say it has to be achievable. And we have to kind of collaboratively work across the sector to make it so. I think we recognize as an enterprise that it is never going to be one technology, and it's never going to be one solution delivered at a particular point in time. It is a continuation, a journey, and a leveraging of multiple technologies to achieve that outcome. But I have to believe that is possible. But I think it's also about recognizing that everything counts. So on our projects where we have active project team members working with our customers, working with our communities to enhance even relatively small programs for greener spaces or recycling efforts, all those things matter. And I think if every participant, if every stakeholder had the same kind of everything I can do, every little bit does count in this sense, I really do feel we're going to move the needle. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take us leveraging the technologies we have today, the ones that are in the pipeline, and then also working hard to try and develop things in the future.
Certainly, I know that it's something which is high on the list, on the agenda of stuff to do at Bechtel anyway. Let's talk a bit about you, Michelle. You originally studied economics and law in South Africa. I mean, what brought you to infrastructure and the UK?
So I came to the UK because I really wanted to just broaden my experience. And I joined Bechtel on the Tube Lines project in 2005. And I remember joining the team and thinking, I'm so over my head. It's a completely new environment. But I actually think construction is one of the friendliest places, one of the friendliest sectors to work. It feels like people do want to attract people. They do want people to stay and grow and learn. And I learned so much. And I think a willingness to kind of say, well, I'm not, this isn't my background, but I'm prepared to really lean in and gain this experience and, offer to do different roles that perhaps wasn't in my original career plan. I think it's really helped me get a broad perspective. I really enjoy infrastructure. I love the fact that we're doing things that change communities. We're doing things that enable communities. I think, things you can see and touch and you could take your children to go see, whether that's an airport or a station. Or it's pretty inspiring, and it's like a testament to the collaborative working of many, many, many people and many organizations to a common goal. And that's always lovely to see.
I mean, you've also worked on some major international projects. I mean, the Hamad International Airport in Qatar. I think you led the commercial management of that multi-billion-dollar passenger terminal complex. I mean, is it those kind of big projects that has kept you at Bechtel?
I'd say no. It's not the big projects are great, but it's the people, without a doubt. I think we love a challenge. The ability to move, the ability to learn new things, to enter new sectors, to challenge myself, lots of supports, lots of learning and development. It's an ongoing project. I think that's been the thing that's really kept me here. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with Bechtel, and I hope I'll be here for a while still. I'm just lucky enough to work with great people doing pretty outstanding things in some amazing places in the world.
Right. So it's the people that makes it special. Yeah. So over the last 13 or 14 years, you've held a number of senior roles. I mean, you've headed up the aviation sector, the transport sector. You're now leading the UK infrastructure division. I mean, how are your challenges changing? Particularly, I suppose, as a woman in a very male-dominated environment there.
I think that the challenge is to really draw more diversity into the industry. I think it's to the benefit of the industry. We want to represent the communities that we serve. And I think that is a big challenge. And it's not so much about gender, but about acceptance of any number of different ethnicities, of backgrounds, experience. And I think that is the challenge that we all face as an industry. How do we make this accessible, exciting place where anyone who works hard and is committed can thrive? So I think that's probably the critical point there. I don't think it is a male-dominated industry for now, but we're working on that, of course.
I mean, is that a challenge which is similar whether you're working in the infrastructure sector in the UK as it is as you're working in the infrastructure sector in, I don't know, Saudi, or you're working in I don't know, in Qatar or any other part of the world? Are those challenges around diversity the same around the world?
They are and they aren't, right? So across the world we're still seeing a male-dominated industry. There's different cultural drivers for some of the diversity challenges we might face in different regions. And I think we accept, as I think, we should, that each place, each region, each project needs a bespoke solution in order to draw people into that project and to attract talent and hold on to talent and develop them. So I think, we've got bespoke programs, particularly for places like Saudi, where we have done an outstanding job in really hiring some fantastically talented Saudi women to an already amazing team of Saudi professionals. So I think it's about recognizing we need to bring everyone in order to really thrive as a project, but also as a business.
Okay. Has there been a seminal moment in your career that's really shaped that development?
Gosh, I'm trying to think if there was one. It's probably been a few. I might just pick one. I remember the day that one of our major programs opened, and people used it, and you could actually see everything that you'd worked on for years. And these programs obviously take a very long time, kind of become so integral to other people's use, experience, and kind of access.
Right,
it's incredibly rewarding in a way that is hard to explain. And I think, from that point on, I kind of recognized that this is powerful, what we do, and the things that we can bring and the changes we can make is pretty awesome. And so I think that to me kind of cemented my belief that, if we have a good, we have a good team, we have projects with purpose, we do good while we're building I think that's pretty magical.
Yeah.
And
No, I know, and it underlines that point around the social value that you create along the way. They're expensive. There's a lot of money going on into them, but they're around for a long while, and they impact a huge number of people's lives. So, you now live in London, although you all do seem to be travelling a lot. What do you do to take your mind off the pressures of work? A lot of family stuff, I imagine.
Yes, yeah. So I have 3 children who serve as the management team at my house. So I'm a worker there too, but I'm incredibly lucky to have them. Any kind of free time I have, it's to spend with my family, who I really enjoy. And we live in a lovely city. London is fantastic, and we're able to really kind of explore together. And that to me is the best time spent.
Fantastic. Well, good time with you at the moment to be doing it in the sunshine. Let's talk about some specifics. You're working on a range of projects at Bechtel around the world right now. Can you give us some examples that really demonstrate, how investment actually leads to greater social value?
Sure. So we've got, there's many rail jobs, and, big programs like Crossrail have lots of references to some of the incredible social value that they've brought. We have a role on Sellafield site, and our team there is doing an outstanding job working with our customer to really engage with the community. Everything from, I think we've got 13 programs running, and it includes access to, speaking at schools to promote STEM, supporting unemployment, community groups to support the broader community in less advantaged areas. We're doing a lot of outreach, and it's not only inspiring the team, it's inspiring the business at large, and also the whole area. Abroad, we've got Bechtel is a joint venture partner with Anchor, and we completed Kosovo's first 2 motorways in 2019, Route 6 and Route 7. And together, those motorways created a transport corridor from Kosovo's border with Albania via its capital to border northern Macedonia. So this has boosted trade, promoted economic growth, and enhanced connectivity throughout the Balkans and through to Western Europe. And so at peak, Route 6 was the largest employer in Kosovo. So 80% of the workforce were Kosovan, and the local subcontractors completed around 70% of the work. So there's a direct impact on a significant proportion of that local community. The supply chains were built around what was available there, and to serve future infrastructure projects in the region. So try to use those opportunities to develop long-term economic vitality in Kosovo. And in addition, local employees received almost 100,000 hours of training. So there was a great push to share skills so that they're empowered to do further work and pursue a career in construction.
Yeah, some great outcomes there on both those examples. And I suppose there's also a good way that you actually are trying to measure it as you go along. You're measuring what those impacts are, so you're actually able to say, well, okay, we deliver that, and we can measure that and understand. So having measured that, do you actually also have to spend time working out from a micro level, perhaps rather than the macro level, what communities actually want when it comes to improving their lives?
So, addressing first the issue of measurement, while most regions don't have a formal way of measuring social value beyond, if I can identify an economic value associated with it, the UK, in fact, does. There are a number of sources we could use, but commonly using the national TOMs or TOMs framework. So that stands for themes, outcomes, and measures. And that helps us provide a minimum reporting standard to help buyers measure and justify the pursuit of social value. So that's helpful in the UK. I think it really helps us articulate what all these actions and all these programs and initiatives can achieve. The second question about how do you assess what people need is a good one. And oftentimes it's something we have to agree and should agree with our customers and the community that the project is located in. And typically there's broad themes associated with them. So in some projects it's employment and others is skills, sometimes a combination of things, sometimes it's very much environmental. And so it's about engaging.
Okay. It's interesting and very challenging, I imagine, to get all those things right. I just wanted to finish just by getting your view, having it started off by asking you what it's all about. What does success really look like when it comes to social dividend and driving social value? And we've talked about some examples of where you've achieved it, but what does real success look like? Because it's quite often, you've mentioned some ways of measuring it, but how does it look actually on the ground?
I think it's probably more about how it feels to the people in those communities than it looks. And I think if people in those communities are pleased with the program that they've been kind of living next to, neighbor to, or within that region, then we've done well. And I think if we leave any place having completed a project better than when we arrived, and not just the infrastructure we built, obviously just the broader community and the people that have been impacted by it, then I think we've done well. But I think it's also, we almost never need to be perfect, because we must constantly strive to do just a little bit more and a little bit better, and learn from each other. Lucky enough to work in a profession where there's lots of creative, innovative, super smart people who are thinking about how we can do things better, cleaner, greener, more effective, and more positive for the community. And so as we see different projects take leads, we should and will be working together across the broader infrastructure sector to make sure that we're all better and we raise the bar.
Great, Michelle, that's a fantastic point to end on there, really positive, and I think certainly demonstrates what you're really trying to achieve, and in many cases are achieving there at Bechtold. So thanks so much, Michelle, for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic, and we hope to check in and show some more great examples of how we're all working towards this worthy goal.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for joining me. I agree, it is an incredibly important topic, and something which I know that people like you are really driving forward. So thanks very much for sharing your experiences. As I say, it's all we've got time for today, but we will have more from the Infrastructure podcast and more guests to talk to over the next few weeks and months as we continue to probe the big issues faced across the sector. If you haven't done so already, do check out the Infrastructure podcast website, www.infrastructure-podcast.com, where you'll find background links to some of the issues discussed today and all the latest podcasts to listen to and to share with colleagues. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks again to my guest today, Michelle. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.